Estás escuchando Radio Primavera Sound, proudly presented by Cupra.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the pleasure here at Radio Primavera Sound to host, to interview Joe and Bowen from Idols. Good to see you back here in the house. This is like a deja vu. It was only, 2 years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years ago. Yeah. How does it feel to be back?
My, how we've grown. It feels great, yeah. I love it here. This is a beautiful place, full of beautiful people. Viva Palestina!
Yes. And you were telling us earlier, you told us the last time that you used to come to Primavera as members of the audience before you came as a band. You even picked up, would it be fair to say you picked up some cues?
We picked up some things off the floor and we put it in our mouths. That's what we did, my friend.
And it's funny because tonight you're playing one of the massive stages, which we have no doubt that you're going to pack just as much as Charlie XCX, who everyone's come to see as well.
I don't want to go in competition with Charlie XCX. They are incredibly popular and incredibly talented, and we are separate entities, and I will celebrate them as a fan.
Plus, you're not competing because you're on different time slots. It's not like you're playing at the same time. That's when it's a competition.
Yeah.
Who have you hated having to play at the same time as in any other festival?
Bowen.
Oh, that was a good one.
I don't know if we've ever paid much attention to that. I think normally people like. I tell you what, rock music's not very popular anymore, so there's not a lot of like bands like us at festivals enough to put us on the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they spread us out, keep us at bay.
You get padded out. But what you have just said is actually not true, because even though we have publicized our headliners, which they are, Charlie, Sabrina, and Chapel, the girlies. Then there's that second line of like punk rock is very present with Idols, Turnstile, Fontaines. We could put them into the post-punk sack. Obviously, we've got Chat Pile on the lineup, and then all the sort of guitar fans who come to Primavera are very satisfied with this lineup. So, do you feel that there's starting to be a resurgence in more intensified styles of rock music?
I think what there is with the newer generations of fans is there's eclecticism. People aren't interested as much in dragging themselves within a subculture. They just celebrate what's good, what's new, what's refreshing. And with bands like Chat Pile, Fontaines DC, Turnstile, and us, we celebrate lots of different things within our own world, Or I'd say all of those bands you just mentioned have influences that are on the sleeves of our albums. I for one know two of those bands personally, and we're all from very different places in terms of what we love and what we celebrate. And I think that's what's refreshing about music these days, is that we don't have to stick in our lane. We can do whatever we want and celebrate each other as individuals, as we all should. Yes, people of Primavera. Thank you. If you're listening, they're clapping.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, we can hear them.
Well, this is what I was going to say. Like, do you think like Idols are a lot more musically open-minded than people think? Because there is that tendency to be like a punk band, but like you got Danny Brown, you work with LCD Sound System.
Yeah, I think so. I think that we get labelled as a punk band often, and I think that's an easy kind of description for us. We do play like caustic rock music with guitars, but like we use guitars as our main instruments and drums, and it is all about the kind of live performance and playing it. But we very much lean into electronic music. We lean into hip hop. It's kind of on all sorts, really. Like, on some of the songs we play, there's like 50s and 60s soul and R&B type vibes that come across, that we think come across. That
Yeah.
maybe people don't hear it, but like, so I think that it's just that. It's like Joe says. I think that like eclecticism is the name of the game these days, and I think that like the more eclectic you can be, the more people that latch on. I think Turnstile are a very good example of that, where they've got their wheelhouse of hardcore, post-hardcore, whatever you want to call it. You can't even call it that anymore. It's kind of hard to describe it, but it's there, and then it branches out into different things, and you can recognize things and find something new in that like transition to recognition.
I think one of the things that comes across to me is that there's a need, especially with the climate we're in with social media and all that stuff, is that people want a sense of authenticity. They want a sense of something they can believe in. When they look at the stage and they spend however many euros it is on a ticket, they want to look at us in the eyes and believe us, and believe Turnstile and Fontaines and whoever, and Charlie XCX, and there's a sense of, and Jamie XX, and all the people that we're playing with today, FKA Twigs, there's a sense of authenticity and a playfulness that is something that they believe in and they love it, and that's why we're here.
How do you get to that stage? Because there must be days when you're about to play and for whatever reason, you know, it's been a difficult day or whatever. How do you get into the stage where people can believe in you, where you are giving it all?
But I think that's kind of... We know not to hide behind something. It's not a performance. It's not, there's no like pretend, like caricature element of us. It's kind of, the more we can realistically lay ourselves on the line and be true to who we are in that moment, the more that we have stand to gain from the show that night, and the more the audience does. So I think that like, it is a great vehicle for catharsis if you're having a shit day, and it's also a great vehicle for expressing joy and gratitude when you're not. So like, it's I think that's it. You just got to remind yourself to just be yourself as much as possible on stage, and the audience will appreciate that.
I think it was you said something very interesting about working with Nigel Godrich on the new album. You said basically you've learnt there are no geniuses.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that?
This is it. Everyone's fucking around. Like everyone is fucking around. I mean, Nigel Godrich, I veer into the term genius, but like it is also like he is a toy. He is a child with toys, and that's kind of the approach. I think the more you kind of come down to the level of a child's exploration of the world around them and the joy that you can get from that, the closer you get to genius, because it's so open-minded and so joyous and so exploratory, if you want. I don't know if that's a word, but like I think that's what I recognized in that. I brought this baggage to working with Nigel where I respected him so much and like worshipped the music that he's made and worshipped his process. Like I can hear Nigel Godrich on all the albums that he has worked on, and I think that like what I was expecting was it to be this genius thing where he kind of came in and just went da-da, and it was there, but it wasn't. It was kind of like, all right, that's how you do things, fuck around with it, and it's great.
Oh, it must have been so much fun. And speaking of eclecticism and working with other people, you worked with Nancy and James from LCD Sound System on Dancer on your track. Now, it's become kind of a common practice that when you are on the same bill in a festival with artists that you've collaborated, sometimes it's like if they're there on the day, they might make an appearance at the show and stuff. Is that on the cards? Would you be?
We can't afford them. Are they playing?
They're playing on Saturday.
Saturday,
I don't know if they're here.
We're leaving at 2 a.m, so
Tonight.
No, yeah.
Oh.
I don't think no, we haven't contacted each other. Normally we would if we're in the same city at the same day.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're here yet.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay.
But yeah, like it might happen if we were, but they're not. So they're not going to be on stage with us tonight. LCD Sound System are not playing with idols tonight. It's just us and a couple of features from other famous people.
But I'm curious of that.
That was a joke. There's no one coming on, just us.
It's just like we don't need anything else. Idols is plenty on our plate for your show. But
except for a couple of very big stars.
Okay, leave it at that. By the way, what was it like hanging in the backstage? You know, you're sharing the backstage with Jamie XX, Charlie XCX, FKA Twigs.
Who may be on stage with us tonight.
What was that like? Because you got the glamorous treatment of Primavera Sound. The main stage, backstage is very lavish. It's very nice.
Yeah.
What were your impressions?
I was offended by the amount of cocaine.
Oh, shut up.
No, I'm joking. It was very intimidating having maybe like 12 stunning, immaculate bodies doing yoga. There was a guy who put his leg behind his head, and it was like 9 a.m. And I was kind of like spluttering out the bus with a cup of coffee and a cig. And yeah, it made me feel fat and old. But they were lovely. It was good. Yeah, it's cool. Like what I find about festivals and festival season, one of the gifts that you have as a touring musician is that you get to hang out with people that you admire and love and like talk to them. And there is an affinity there because you've got things in common.
Yeah.
That and you bump into people that you haven't seen since the last festival circuit and things like that. And it's good. It's good. I like it.
Talking festivals, you got your own block party in August, right?
August 2nd, yes.
To what extent have you been involved in
Everything.
organising it? Down to toilets?
To where the toilets were, yeah. We had a meeting. We had a meeting with the maps, our managers out there. We had a Zoom meeting where we just made sure the site was all in order and where it was going. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes. Well, it's important, like if you're going to put your name to something, make sure that you are the hardest working person in the room, or don't put your name to it.
Yeah.
Are you going to be suffering a bit on the day, like in case something goes wrong? I mean, it's a fabulous stuff.
I don't care. I'm joking. No, it's going to be like, that's why you do all the meetings, is because you get it all prepared and all done and set. Like, I think home shows, the actual show itself is the nerve-wracking bit, because it's a bit like your birthday party. You actually end up having the worst time out of everyone because you want everyone else to have such a good time.
Yeah.
But I'm just excited to see the lineup. It's a great lineup. It's got some great acts. It's going to be good.
Now, last night you played La Rochelle in France as kind of a warm-up gig for tonight's show, and you hadn't played since February, you told me, yes?
January.
Since January, so that's a long time, downtime. But can you describe, do you now know all the songs that you tend to play live? Is it muscle memory? Like, do you actually enjoy the show now because you don't have to think about the next step or the next change in chord or dynamics?
Yeah, it's surprising how thought out it is. It doesn't come from anywhere. It's a bit like a reflex.
Yeah.
Which is nice, but kind of terrifying when you're jumping into that for the first time in a long time. Last night was like, you're just like, I don't know that I knew the chorus to dancer. But then there it was, it's kind of there. But like, if I had to show you how to play one of our songs, I wouldn't be able to. But like, it just happens in the kind of mechanics of the show, and it just means that just means you're freer to absorb everything else that's around you, the audience, like the sound, how it feels,
and enjoy the
everything.
moment.
Yeah.
I have quite a sideways question, if I may, which is basically based on the fact that when you last played Glastonbury, you led the crowd to chant "Fuck the King," which you called the new British national anthem. Which seems fair enough. And if you actually did have to write a new national anthem, what kind of would it say? What would it reflect?
It would be something to do with it'd be I think it's what they would call an oxymoron, because I would like a borderless, nationless, flagless world with no fucking occupations from the Brits or the Spanish or the French or the Italians or any other fucking country that feel that they can steal natural resources from places like Burkina Faso or the Middle East and put a religious book in front of it. So the national anthem would be silent. That's my artistic that's my wank for the day.
Oh my goodness.
What would yours be, Bo? Go on, sing it, quick, go. Isn't it lovely?
I'm Irish, so I wouldn't have an input. Sorry.
All right. Is it too real for ya?
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, sick. There you go.
There you go.
Going back to Tank, your most recent album. Joe, I think you said it was all love songs. All is love.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
It sounds to me like you have some repressed issues you might want to talk about if you don't know what all love songs means. But I will help you out. I wrote the album as in the lyrics and melody with love in mind, the intention of love. I needed love. I was in a tricky spot, and if I'm honest, I still am. And what works best is to cultivate what I need by demanding your needs from yourself and asking for your needs to others and showing yourself for who you are, and hopefully get something in return that is love.
That's hard, isn't it? Because sometimes when you have to bring out something in yourself when you feel a bit low, it's not the easiest thing, is it?
Yeah, no, not at all. Well, years and years of therapy and good friends, a good support system, and a slow allowance of learning my own creative language. Like these albums, if you go back to the first or second album, there was a lot of it was a clusterfuck. It was very combustive. It was an explosion of emotion and grief and anger and disarray. So I was finding myself, and I was allowed the platform to find myself openly. And with that grace of the beautiful people that supported us over the years, it allowed me the time and the grace to be able to learn how to express myself fluently. I'm not there yet, but I think when you're given empathy and you're given an ear or a shoulder or a lap or whatever it is you need, you find yourself saying things that you've had in your head that you've never said out loud before. Hola. That's the beautiful Heinz right there.
Heinz, they played last night, an amazing set.
They're a menace. They're a menace to the country and the festival.
Wherever they are, there's always joy and happiness.
And the rest.
Speaking of albums, I mean, Tank came out a year and a half ago, more or less. My math is crap, but it came out in 2024 in January, more or less. So it would be logical to ask, is there new material being worked on, and is there something that you could tell us about?
Yeah, we've been working on a new album with Kenny and Nigel again.
Yeah?
We're about 60% there.
Okay.
The 40% is the good bit that we haven't done yet. But, no, it's feeling really good, and I can't wait to get back in the room with the boys and make it. But we're in a beautiful spot.
But you're a band of incredibly wildly creative people. So I imagine
There's two wildly creative people. There's three workhorses. Let's be honest.
Okay.
I'm joking.
Your words will come back to haunt you. This is radio. It's all recorded. But where's your creative headspace? Are you working with a theme, or is there something that is inspiring you to tread new ground sonically?
It's a feeling, it's a sentiment. I think that what we work best on our creative language is whenever we lay something down on the line list, it's normally the title. So we've got the title, and sometimes that ends up being the final title. Sometimes it isn't. Sometimes it evolves. But it's how we communicate that sense. We communicate that feeling with each other, and then that kind of works its way into the sonics of the album, works its way into kind of even just soft edges around it, or some of the aesthetic that can kind of not be that tangible, not be that clear, but sometimes it's very much in the clarity of it. And I think that with this one, we're kind of I think because we've wiped our slate completely blank, and we're not a punk band anymore. Yeah. We're not a straight up rock band. We're branching into these new territories, and it's about trying to find our idols within that, and it's exciting. It's fucking hard work, But it's exciting.
It's not that hard.
No, it is, because you're like, you're like, is that it?
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of nakedness. Yeah, it's tough. It's interesting. It's a beautiful challenge, and we're very grateful to be given it.
Because the way I see it as a music fan, you've obviously got plenty of songs to give audiences the Idols experience, relying on the back catalogue, but this also allows you the freedom to, all of a sudden, if you want to make a chill out album or, do an Arctic Monkeys where all of a sudden you're lounge singers, you could do it. No, I wonder if that's an interesting sort of freedom that you have now that, as I explained it, you have the energy in all your previous albums, and now you can just...
I feel
that way?
Absolutely, but it's not so much. It wouldn't be a sense of a genre for an album. It's because we like the way Bowen and I work is there's an arc to our albums because we have a sense of push and pull. We disagree beautifully, and we wouldn't agree for an album. That's just not how it would work. We wouldn't go down Tranquility Hotel style thing because. Yeah. I'm not saying that album's flat. I think it's an incredibly beautiful album. I love it, but it's just we don't do that. We have I don't know the way the way we work and the way we tell a story over 45 minutes on a record is it can't be that singular. It's a very combustive and I don't know. There's violence there. There's always violence in our art, and that violence comes out in dynamism. It's about sometimes being angry and sometimes being sad and sometimes being a lounge singer and sometimes being a fucking sledgehammer.
At the same time, you've been influenced by Fatherhood, right?
It stops me doing stuff, yeah.
Welcome to the club.
It's
yes, lovely,
yes.
But we don't do shit.
But yeah, exactly. But by the grace of parenthood, you definitely learn how powerful your love is, your attention is, your care, your discipline is. There's things there that you underestimate how powerful it is until someone else's life is in your hands. Yeah. And then it's just amazing. Being able to discipline someone with no shame and teach them the world and give them boundaries, and then they come back at you with their boundaries, is one of the most beautiful things ever. But, it's very turbulent.
The different kinds of sleepless nights, aren't they?
Yeah. It's not the Primavera vibe, no.
Bowen, you're a bit like Inspector Gadget when it comes to pedals and tech and stuff to create new sounds with. Is there anything that's tickling your fancy or something that you've discovered in the last year that's really putting some engine fuel in your motivation?
Whoa.
Lots.
Yeah, lots. I've kind of finally understood synthesis. So I'm using I've got a Moog Model D now. That is everything to me. So that's all over the next album. But what I've always find with I find guitars boring because of the constraints that were there. So that's why pedals were useful too, because I didn't want to sound like a normal guitar band. And now that I've got bleep, bleep, blop, blop synths, can end up sound like every other fuckwit with a fucking modular setup,
So you're trying to get them to sound like guitars.
So I'm trying to get them to sound like guitars. But it's about how do you clash that? How do you get those to mash in the middle? How can we use the studio as a tool to create this kind of vehement thing that is Idols? So that's what I'm interested in at the minute, is how do I make this synth patch feel real?
Yeah,
and that's what I want. That's all we've ever done. We've always ever done is try to create sounds that felt real, that felt like an expression from the human that is Mark Bowen, or an expression from the human that is Joe. And I think that it's just about finding that, and it's really exciting because it's also very easy to fall into traps when you discover these things, and you can get complacent with it or get a little bit lost. And I think it's about centering yourself with your intentions and then pushing out with it. But yeah, there's a lot going on.
Does it limit you? Like, would you not introduce stuff onto an album that you can't recreate live just among you?
No, that's not a concern anymore.
Yeah.
I think we learned. I think from Tank, what we learned was that one, we didn't really have a consideration for that while making Tank, and then when we transferred Tank across live and worked out how to do all these things with the MPC, with loops, with using, I've got this like big stupid guitar pedal thing that's on stage that I do lots of different things with my feet and hands, and it's like, I'm also actually watching LCD Sound System as well. When we toured with them, that was transformative because James Murphy does not compromise a fucking inch. And like, you watch LCD Sound System, that is what it's meant to be like. And it's just about that. It's like, whatever we do in the studio, there is a way of doing it live. And it might be a lot of hard work, but we're never going to be in a band that has like 12 tracks of track just playing behind us and we're playing over the top of it. That's not going to happen. It has to be someone doing something.
Maybe this is slightly wanky, but do you ever find yourself like going beyond instruments? As in, like, you know, at the start you kind of think of yourself as a guitar player, so you play guitar, but it's like there's something more important than that. There's like a sound or an idea you want.
Yeah, or often. It's kind of like, I mean, a lot of the stuff, like, I mean, you could take Pop 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 as a good example of that, where we had these like pieces of feedback that we put together to create chords, and then we created these sounds off the back of that and created a beat and a loop. So it's kind of like, it's weird to write an Idol song now because like you don't really sit at a guitar and strum something out. It kind of gets pieced together from an idea.
I mean, one of the reasons why it's still quite a fluid process is Bowen and I write the music visually. So there's a lot of our adjectives are not like, you know, I don't know, C sharp. It's we'll describe things visually and we'll write visually. Our music comes from a place of, that's how we write music together. Is we can't really describe it any other way. It's not synesthesia, but it's as close to it as a connection. That's how we write together.
For instance, it'll be like, okay, now comes the crash. Or
No. It would be like dark, light, bright, just things that are used often in music. But then we'll go along and then we'll describe the landscape of it. It's like
it's colors and textures as
and
well,
shapes, and like it's hard to explain. But
I'm getting
it's
But like take Pop 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 for example. How did you describe that at the start? Or how do you describe it now?
I wrote a beat to start with as just a two drum beat that kind of ran through so many incredible pop songs, and then I started writing a bass line, and then the bass fed back because it was an open bass, and Bowen was like, hold that there, and then we played the two notes, and Bo kind of just played it.
Found the distant harmonics of the feedback in the room, and then they worked together as a chord, and then that became the basis of the song, and then we kind of edited and chopped it, and Kenny did his thing, and Nigel did his thing, and it all kind of worked together.
Yeah.
And it's that other thing as well, is like to use electronic music and to use hip hop as our influences. Like a lot of the drums that you hear is John playing drums, but we've either done a tape loop or we've done samples of John, so that it becomes like a drum machine, and we treat it like a drum machine, and it evolves like a drum machine. There's filters and stuff that go on it, but it means that you can be a live band but create that sense of what it is that is a locked in hip hop groove, and you know, a pocket and things like that. So it's we just explore it in all sorts of different ways.
Was there ever any pushback from him? Because, you know, drummers like playing live, you know, I mean, and you're like, well...
No, because, I mean, John is a machine anyway. So if you get John to play like a drum machine, he invariably can. Like, that man's a metronome robot.
A very Caucasian drum machine. I have to try and steer him away from it a bit. Introduce groove back into it and like a bit of life.
But he gets it, and it gives him a chance to explore as well. Like watching him work with a tape loop is very cool because he's got his pocket gets lined up and it's presented in front of him, and then he can put the fills in and the kind of the ghost notes and the things that make it interesting. And then you have to watch him work out how to do it live when he eventually does it live on the song, and it's pretty cool. So it's a challenge for him, but we're all trying.
Well, that's how we have time for, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have to let the boys go back to that wonderful backstage to hang out with FKA Twigs yoga dancers and
influencers.
and influencers. And there's a good catering area, I think, for you lot out there. We're plebs, we get...
The food's all right.
The food's all right. Our food's all right for the workers. Anyway, but just last thing, all this audience is going to be there watching you. What do you expect from the audience tonight, at the Idol show in Primavera Sound 2025?
We expect nothing from our audience. We'll do everything for them. You just come and bring us love. We'll bring love. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Thank you.
Stop genocide. Thank you very much.
All right. You.
Estás escuchando Radio Primavera Sound, proudly presented by Cupra.